Hello guys, welcome to Online Web Tutor presented by Preferred Extensions team. I am Sanjay. We are learning Node.js with MySQL APIs. This is our part 8. Inside this video session guys, we will discuss about creating web server in Node.js. So first thing first, what basically web server is? Web server is an environment which basically renders about web page application access. So if we want to access any web application pages, then we want a web server. So let's say that this is some theoretical point of concept to understand about Node.js web server. So to access pages of any web application, we need a web server. The web server will handle all the HTTP requests for the web application. For example, IIS is a web server for ASP.NET web applications, whereas Apache is a web server for PHP or Java-based web applications. Node.js provides capabilities to create our own server, which will handle HTTP requests in the asynchronous manner. We can use instead IIS or Apache to run our Node.js based applications, but it is recommended to use Node.js web server. So let's see that how can we create our own web server in Node.js. So to create a web server in Node.js, we have to firstly use about the core module called HTTP inside Node.js. So back to editor. Now if I create a file something, let's say server.js, and inside this now we are going to create our own web server. So let's say const http, and we have to load one of the core module from node applications, something we have called http. Now by the help of this http module, actually we are now able to create our own web server. Now successfully we have loaded our module. So let's say that http dot, and it has a method called create server. Now it basically used to create our own server in Node.js application. So pressing enter, now this will take an anonymous function, and it has some parameter like request, and let's parameter, sorry it's not parameter, this is as response. So request response. Now inside this block actually we have to handle all the HTTP requests what we are getting inside this web server. So if I write comment in lines, so let's say that here we are loading our HTTP module. Here we are creating our server. So let's say creating server, and inside this block now we are going to handle our HTTP requests. Okay, now finally we have created our server. So basically we are going to store inside this variable something known as server, and we are going to listen that. Listen is a method, let's say server dot listen, and it will listen all incoming requests of this web server, and we are going to specify a port, and let's say that 4500. Now this is the port. Actually at this port we are going to listen or render all the HTTP requests. So that's a console.log. Let's say server running successfully. Now if we save all these changes, if I back to our terminal, let's say node server.js, server running successfully. So how can we test that our server has been created? So back to browser. Now if I press localhost, and the port we have specified something 4500. Now if I pressing enter, now it is loading and loading, because currently we are not handling any like request inside this. So firstly we need to prepare some command which handles our request. So back to terminal, and if I press Ctrl C to terminate, again back to browser, and as we can see that our web server has now stopped because we had cancelled from the terminal. Now let's go ahead inside this block and we are going to handle some requests. So let's say that firstly, if I open about the URL, so if I write comment here, let's say that if we are getting about the home page, it means this is the URL. So what we have to do, so let's say if request.url, it basically contains a parameter, and inside this let's say that our web server has URL something like this. Now we have to handle that. So let's say we are sending about the response. Let's write, and inside this simply let's say inside h2 tag we are writing, or let's say this is our home page, and we are going to end that. So response.end. So simply we have done. It means that if we are getting URL as our home page, then this is the message actually we are going to write inside document. So as we are sending about the HTML content, so we need to set header as well. So let's say we are not going to set that. So if I back to terminal, again if I run our web server, something nodeserver.js, pressing enter, server running successfully. Back again to browser, reload this page. Now as we can see that after getting this URL means our home page. This is our home page's message appearing what we have provided inside this block. But remember, this is our HTML content, but it is not rendering what we have provided inside this document. So firstly, we have to set a header to tell our browser that this is the HTML content. So for that, we need to let's say response.writeHead, and inside this, firstly we have to pass the status code, something let's say 200, and inside this second parameter we have to pass our content type, means what basically this content we are going to write inside this document. So let's say content type, and we are sending about the text which is HTML type. So again if we save all these changes, back to server, Control C to cancel, run our server.js file, and if we reload this page, now as we can see that successfully we have loaded our HTML content. So what will happen if I type, let's say if we have an admin panel and this is what we want to open. So if I pressing enter, now it is loading and loading. So we need to handle this request as well. So back to our editor. Now if I make before and else condition, and again if I copy all these things, pasting it here, and let's say that this route is not being handled. So save all these changes, back to terminal, Control C to cancel, again creating a web server, back to browser, reload this page, and as we know that this is the route actually we have not handled in our block, so this is going to else block. So again if I back to home page, now this is our home page because we have successfully handled that. So if we need to handle our admin request as well, so let's else if, and inside this let's say that request.url, and we are getting as an admin something like this. So let's say response.writing header first, because we need to tell our that is this is HTML type. In the second we need to pass our object, so let's say content type, and this is all about text HTML. And finally let's say response.write, and passing h3 tag, let's say that this is admin panel, and finally we are going to end our response. So and here, now if we save all these changes, back to our terminal, close this connection, restarting server, back here. Now this is our home page. Now if I pass admin here, now this is our admin panel. And apart from these routes, if I pass something login, and as we know that this request is not being handled, so this is our else block message. Now successfully guys, by the help of this video session, actually we understood that in Node.js application, how can we create a web server, how can we listen our request and successfully load into the browser. All the seen step by step by the help of this video. Now firstly, if we want to handle our HTTP request or creating a web server, we have to load a module, and this is our core module something HTTP. We are not going to install this package via npm, means node package manager, because this is core module. If suppose this will be our third party module, then we need to install via npm. In the upcoming lectures, we will see that by the help of npm package, how can we install MySQL, as well as we will see that how can we install Express module. Now firstly, we need to load our module. This is inbuilt module, and by the help of this HTTP, we can create our server first. Now inside this block, we have handled multiple requests, and finally we are going to listen all these requests at this port. So by the help of this listen method, now we are going to listen all these requests inside this 4500 port. Now finally, after completing this video, now we are able to create our own server in Node.js application instead of using IIS or Apache server to run our Node.js application. So inside this video session guys, if you have any doubt, then please drop your comment. I will give my reply as soon as possible. So for this video session guys, thank you for watching and have a great day.